Hey, man.
How's that? Did it work?
It worked. You're on.
Whoa, that was more stressful than the earthquake I woke up to this morning. I'll tell you that. First Instagram Live.
Right on, man. Thanks for
Yes.
doing this.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be talking to my buddy Travis Haley. I think you know Travis as well a bit
Yep.
later. So just to dive right in, and this thing lasts for 24 hours, so we're going to keep sharing this. We've got a bunch of people joining now. People are freaking out. People are asking me, and I always say, I guess I'm getting to be an expert, but I don't like to say I'm an expert. I like to say I have friends that are experts, and you're one of them. So I would love for you to just give people like a 30 seconds on your background, and then I want to get into how people should be feeling right now, how they should operate, and maybe what they should be thinking about. Because I think everyone's kind of feeling some nerves right now, and I think the best thing to calm nerves is to have a plan and to be prepared, and I would love your perspective on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent the last 20 years in the SEAL teams, but before that, grew up in and around the outdoors. I was very fortunate to be able to go to some survival schools and that sort of thing. It just resonated with me from a very early age that being prepared was just a part of who I was. It was something I was interested in and that I wanted to study, that I wanted to I just wanted to be comfortable in the outdoors if I didn't have anything, especially going into the backcountry especially in the 80s, before you had a cell service or you had a little button you could press on some device where all of a sudden search and rescue is going to be there. I mean,
Right.
You had to be as self-reliant as possible. So it was just always a part of my being. And then growing up in California, of course, we had the earthquakes to deal with. So it was kind of natural to be prepared for those, not knowing how long this power would go out for, or if there'd be anything, if you'd have any services at all. So we were prepared at our house, not crazy, just with food and water and that sort of thing. But in these times, I mean, I just did a post the other day and wrote an op-ed the other day talking about, hey, what happens if this virus is compounded by an earthquake, which we felt here in Utah this morning, tsunami, tornadoes, hurricane, terrorist attack, something like that. So are you thinking those a little bit ahead? Are you thinking about if this gets compounded? And are you ready? Meaning, hey, have you just stockpiled those basic items that allow you to have the peace of mind to use that bandwidth that's left over to deal with whatever crisis comes your way? So if you can just take some basic steps by having food, by having water, by having some medical supplies, if you feel comfortable with firearms, and that's something that is part of your training and something part of your mindset. And, I mean, if someone's not there to pick up 911, what are you gonna do? So those things right there allow you then to focus on the other things that might happen, like this earthquake this morning, like coronavirus, like having the kids at home from school when you're supposed to be working, whatever it may be. But having those basics covered just allows you to focus that bandwidth really where it needs to be.
Yeah. So Travis and I were kind of joking last night about the toilet paper scenario, and he was like, "Listen, if the world's ending, I'm not really thinking about toilet paper. There's leaves and there's whatever." What do you recommend for people that are maybe just completely inexperienced in this? Like, everybody keeps saying, make sure you've stocked up, make sure you have supplies. But, what kind of stuff do you see that's most often overlooked? And what kind of stuff are people seeming to buy that is not important? Like, where would you have people focus their energy?
Yeah, the toilet paper thing is weird. I had a friend that in California whose son got locked in their bathroom, had huge doors. It's an amazing place. Anyway, they had to call a contractor to come over to get him out because my buddy wasn't home. And as the guys were leaving, the wife's like, "Hey, what can I do for you guys? How much was this?" And they said, "Well, we saw the toilet paper you had in the garage. We just want that." So she paid them in toilet paper, which is it's a crazy thing. Yeah, so we all know the basics that you should have on hand. I mean, it depends on your family situation, how many people you have, how old they are, all those sorts of, where you live, is it a big city, is it remote in the mountains, everybody's situation is going to be a little different. And then what makes everyone feel comfortable is going to be different as well. So someone might feel comfortable with 3 months, someone else might feel comfortable with just 2 weeks. But there are some, so we know those basics, and we've talked about them kind of ad nauseum over the past few days. But some of the other things that get overlooked, to go back to your question, are things like batteries. Things that are smaller, that you can help neighbors out with if they don't have batteries, if they don't have soaps, shampoos, that sort of thing. So smaller items like that come from hotels. So things that can be traded very easily, or you can help someone out with without giving your Costco gigantic big soap container. Well, here's some smaller ones you have to help out neighbors, or to trade for something that they might have that you might need. And it's not crazy prepper stuff. It's just, hey, it might be good to have some extra batteries on hand for your things, or to trade, or to give to other people that did not stockpile, to help your neighbor out. Ammunition of different calibers, if you're into that sort of thing and prepared, so you can either trade those or help out a neighbor who's not as prepared as you are. Things like that. So those little things that aren't necessarily part of the bigger plan, like how much food, how much water, how much medical supplies do we need, are the cars gassed up, that sort of thing. Do the kids know where the fire extinguishers are? Does my wife know where the fire? Do I know where the fire extinguishers are? Has anybody moved them? Do the kids know how to use those things? Have we built a fire in the backyard and have the kids put it out with that fire extinguisher? As one, it's kind of fun, and two, it gives them a great skill to have. So when a fire does happen, they're not trying that for the first time. So little things like that are probably things that get overlooked more often than not, and probably some of the things like that fire that are more likely to happen than anything else.
One of the things we talked about too last night was community. Historically, the only way humans have worked through anything is working together, whether it was a woolly mammoth or an invading army or whatever. And I know we live in a culture now where maybe you don't know your neighbors as well as our parents did or our grandparents did. One of the things Travis was talking about, and I'd love your perspective on this, but I thought it was a valid point, was, talk to your neighborhood, try to understand what people's skills are, and if something happens, how you're all going to support each other, so there's not a bunch of panic if something happens. And I hate to even speak this way because it does create some anxiety and maybe some fear, but I do think it's worth thinking about at this point with everything trending the way it is.
Oh yeah, go back to the beginning of time. You had to have alliances with other cavemen to if you're going to defend the tribe and put food on get food on the fire, and that sort of thing. So it's just a more modern day thing of that. Like, I called my neighbor down the road here earlier in the week and just asked him how he's doing. They're a little older. Do they need anything? And he said, "Hey, we're fine here. We actually like this. I'm building a table for my grandkids, and my wife's gardening now that the things are melting, and I'm checking on stocks. I'm jumping in the market here." So, but it's good to check in. I'd say check in with your neighbors for sure if you haven't already formed some sort of a plan with them. And today it's I don't know, it's odd, or it's just, I don't know, making a plan with neighbors for things. People sometimes think you're a little crazy as far as, prepper type stuff, but it's good to know if people have skills. Like, there's some things that I am not good at, and I happen to know that a couple of my neighbors are good at. There's something that I'm very good at that they are not. So I think for us anyway, that's what we're comfortable with, is more of just like a basic understanding rather than here's the community plan. I don't think, for us, I'm at that stage quite yet, but I know who our neighbors are. I can knock on their doors, check on them, and a general understanding of what they are good at and what I am not, and how we'll support one another. But I would say it would definitely make sense if people are comfortable with that, to form some sort of a community plan and to talk to one another. Because if you plan for your family and your family only, and all of a sudden you have 10 people knocking on your door because they know that you have food there and you know how long this thing's going to last, well, then what? So it's good to prepare for yourself, and then also have a little bit extra for maybe those who haven't prepared, that are in your community. Of course, as citizens of this country, we're all about helping our neighbors. So
absolutely,
do what you can to be able to lend a hand to them as well.
How can I ask you how long do you think this situation is going to persist, in your opinion?
It's so hard because you don't know who to trust. Obviously, we have a general distrust of politicians that is in our DNA as Americans. And the news. So, and people in the news as well. So who do you trust? Then you see doctors coming up with different opinions, and it's the uncertainty is really what is probably the most disconcerting part of all this. So when I sift through all that, and I haven't been studying it intently, I'm doing what everybody else is doing. It's on. I'm turning the TV off as much as I can to help the kids with schoolwork, or to get outside and go on hikes with them, that sort of thing. So we have a schedule, so we're not overly obsessive about it. But from what I have gathered, we're looking at a 60 to 80 to 90 day type of curve, where mid-April, late April is the highest hit. It all depends on how seriously people take the social distancing and everything that they're supposed to be doing. So really, it's up to us as citizens how long this thing is going to last till it turns. But my guess is that we have about 60 days, possibly 80, 90, till it really heads on the downside of that curve and we start moving out of it. So that's what, and prepared for here in our household.
And I think that the social distancing is a really good idea. Am I hearing that you agree with that? That this is the right thing to be doing right now? Is just stay home. It may feel like an overreaction, but it's the right thing to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can always look back and say, oh, maybe we overreacted, but that's certainly better than the alternative.
Well, the problem with these stories is if we overreact, then maybe it isn't become as bad as it is, and it feels like an overreaction, or actually you did the right thing to get the right result, right? It's almost a double-edged sword there.
It is a bit, but we're seeing trends that point in a direction that is the most prudent course of action for our friends, our family, for the country in general, for the world, because this is a pandemic now. So yeah, it just makes sense to, why wouldn't you want to stay home and limit? I like to limit my distance from people anyway. It's one of the reasons I'm an author. I feel like nothing really has changed. I'm locked down at home, I'm writing. So
I'm almost 40 and single, and people are like, how you handling it? I'm like, just like I did the last 39 years, man.
Exactly. So it feels fairly normal, except the kids are here helping me write my next book. So
nice.
Other than that, it actually, we had a great, we took a nice hike yesterday. We're getting on the schedule, making the kids feel part of the team, and then help, put that schedule together, figuring out the times that should be allocated for each one of the activities that we have. Like we'll be going on a hike here soon, even though it's snowing outside, and just get some fresh air, coming back, making breakfast, doing some schoolwork for a little while, going on another hike, coming back, doing a little bit more work, doing a little bit more reading, and then having a little movie night. So that's kind of what our schedule looks like. And we'll probably morph a little bit more of that into, there's things that are available now that weren't available to people 20, 30 years ago. Like we can jump on YouTube and we can learn how to play the guitar. So one of our kids knows how, the other one has had a couple lessons. So we're going to make that part of the day as well. One of our kids is very good at chess. The other one started out last year, so we're going to have some chess lessons. So each one of them is going to have a certain responsibility as we move into this. It's no school time anyway. Isolation. We can call it isolation, and it's self-imposed isolation, I guess. But it's we're not locked down in the house. We can go outside. We can hike. We'll get the workouts in, that sort of thing, and monitor it as best we can.
Right. Well, and I think you hit on a good thing, a big point there, and that's like your emotions and your mental attitude through this is going to play such a huge role, even in your health and everything else. And I know the analogy I always give is like if you take your dog out and you give him a run, you can probably hear mine barking in the background because he didn't get a run today. But if you let them do their job and do their thing and have a pattern, they are much better behaved the rest of the day and they're happy. And it's kind of the same with humans. If we have tasks we're focused on, if we're working on improving ourselves, we're working on helping others, you don't have that anxiety build up because you actually feel like you're being a contributor.
Oh yeah, attitude is the most important part of any situation in life, and oftentimes that's the only thing we can control. And being an example, being a leader to your family and your community, also of vital importance. So I used to tell the guys downrange, to say sometimes the only thing we're going to have control of is our attitude. So make sure it's a good one. Make sure you have spirit, whatever your sphere of influence is, whether it's just you and your family, your neighborhood, if you're on social media and you have a large following. Everybody has different spheres of influence, but hey, why not make it a positive one?
Great, man. Well, thanks. Anything else you want to add? That's a great perspective, and maybe we can check in a couple of days. And
yeah, absolutely. Let's touch base for sure. We'll keep going. Check in and see how things are going from time to time. And I'd say for people, don't be alarmist, but just be prepared, just like you would for anything. And it's not it's just a good thing to do in general to give you peace of mind. So it's something you don't have to worry about in advance of something happening or when it is happening. So I just say stay strong, stay safe, and I like to say it as Americans, we don't just survive, we prevail. So that's the mindset.